Hi.
Hello again. We're in page 26 through 29 in the Pure Worship book. And this is mostly illustrations. First of all, you've got charts with the prophets of the period and the chronology of the period, at least the Watchtower's version of it. And then in the next two pages, you've got this. Heavens opened and what Ezekiel saw rendered. A fragment of the chariot, the wheels, within the wheels. Well, there's something to say, though, about all of it, because starting with the chart, the chronological chart on the right-hand page here, everything is wrong on the chart. We've made this point before. Whatever they do chronology, it's all skewered because of their clinging to
607.
607.
Yeah.
So that knocks everything out by about 20 years, sometimes more. So again, they're all presented as absolute dates. It's not even usually around such a date. The date is given without even a CA in front of it to say circa. So what is all this about? Well, it's this quest for certitude. They've got to fix these dates.
Yeah.
And give at least the impression to Jehovah's Witnesses that these dates are fixed, despite the fact the whole world disagrees with you.
Mm-hmm. I think it's an example of not very humble as well. We have to have the definitive on everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether it's in question by anyone.
Yeah, and then on the left-hand page, you've got renderings, artistic renderings of 6 prophets. Ezekiel of course, he's got the big picture here. Of course, these are all just artistic improvisations because we don't know anything about the looks of these prophets at all. Mm-hmm. It is heartening that all the men have beards, though. There was a time. There was a time a few days. Yeah. Well, some of them might have been anyway. So now they've all got beards. Huldah is there, so the names are Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Huldah, Daniel, Habakkuk, and Obadiah. And it is true.
Huldah doesn't have a beard. Okay.
It is true that all of these were prophets in the same generation, overlapping each other. Although, as far as we know, Jeremiah is the only one who was at the end, the destruction of Jerusalem, that was actually in the city. We don't know what happened to Habakkuk or Huldah or Obadiah. But we know where Ezekiel and Daniel were, and there's an interesting fact attached to that the two prophets of the exile that we're familiar with, namely Daniel and Ezekiel, in the order in which they went to Babylon, they both have names that are compounds not of the divine name, like Obadiah or Jeremiah, but compounds of the alternate name, El, short for Elohim. Mm-hmm. And then you realize that's a pattern that gets set up, and it's reinforced by what you discern about the way the two write in exile. Ezekiel serving the community that he's part of, the Jewish community in Babylon, he writes using the divine name in his book very frequently, and he's the one who's so big on the name not being profaned, and one day that the name will no longer be profaned among the nations, and God will vindicate his name. So he's very emphatic about the Tetragrammaton and its ultimate restoration. But on the other hand, Daniel is in a pagan community, and in the court, the highest court in the world, the court of Nebuchadnezzar, he doesn't use the name at all.
Except in a prayer, a private prayer.
Yeah.
About the restoration of the land.
Yeah, about the restoration of his people to the land, to the city of Jerusalem, so they can rebuild it, so they can rebuild the temple and restart the worship of Yahweh again. But until that happens, he doesn't feel at all secure about using the name.
It seems to be directly tied to the covenant people.
Yeah.
Using the name.
That's right, and that's where Ezekiel comes in at the same time. He's saying that one day the name will be known by the Gentiles, not just by his people. Used by the Gentiles, not just by his people. Because
the intimacy is going to be expanded. They don't know that necessarily, but it will be expanded.
And of course, none of this has happened yet. The Jewish people are not comfortable using this most sacred name. But they will be one day, Ezekiel says. And Jeremiah adds to that, yes, one day they will.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing here is this one paragraph you have under the picture of the wheels.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the paragraph. No human can see the Almighty God, Jehovah, and live. Exodus 33, verse 20. But Jehovah gave Ezekiel visions that reveal the heavenly part of his organization, visions that not only fill us with awe, but also deepen our appreciation for the honor we have to worship the one true God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. The first point you want to make, though, is no human can see the Almighty God, Jehovah, and live. And of course, they're very emphatic about this, which for them is an all or nothing proposition, because if that isn't true, then they have to rethink who Jesus of Nazareth really is.
Mm.
But we thought to read the context of this, because if you look at Exodus 33, first the entire verse, because they're not directly quoting it here, they're only quoting a part of it, and then the verses after it give a different picture of whether you can see Jehovah.
In any sense, yeah. But he said, You cannot see my face, for no man shall see me and live. And the Lord said, Here is a place by me, and you shall stand on the rock. So it shall be, while my glory passes by, that I will put you in the cleft of the rock, and I will cover you with my hand while I pass by. Then I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen. So is he seeing something?
He's seeing something. It's what we would call a theophany. He's seeing something, but he wants to see more. And God says, you can't see my face and live. In the context, he says, you cannot see me and live.
Yeah.
But then the demonstration or explanation is that, well, I will allow you to see my back.
Yeah.
But you cannot see my face.
So as witnesses, though, we have it that it would have to be, if you see anything, it has to be an angel, God showing through some element that we know. But he wouldn't be, it wouldn't be, most times they're thinking in terms of visions, I think, and dreams and stuff like that, God communicating that way, or through an angel. So you have to make that automatic jump to an angel.
Moses is asking to see something. It's very evident he's not talking about eyes of understanding here.
Yeah.
He's talking about, show me your glory.
Yeah.
And God says, well, yes and no. And are we happy? They are not happy with the paradox here. They want to say no one can see God.
I don't think we're comfortable with theophany, they call it, right? We're not comfortable with that idea even as witnesses.
But you realize, is this saying therefore that God in heaven has a face and a back? That he has a human form like us in heaven? Or are all these things analogies and comparisons? And is even the contrast between seeing his face and seeing his back? Well, what is that in our world? You really never know someone until you see them face to face, right? And share a relationship in real space with them. And something like that is what Moses seems to be requesting. I want to know you intimately, better anyway.
Yeah.
And then you realize in Deuteronomy 34, the very last word after Moses dies about his relationship with Yahweh is that Yahweh knew him face to face.
Yeah.
Saying that he did have that intimacy with God. But did he really ever see God in his glory? Well, God plainly says that's impossible.
Yeah, even here he says, when my glory passes by. So there's limits to what, I think you used the illustration of, we can see stars from a distance, but we couldn't see them close up.
In their glory.
It would be too much for us to handle.
Even if we were 1 million miles or 2 million miles closer to the sun, we wouldn't survive.
Yeah. Yeah. So God knows our frailty, but he still manages to communicate with us and allow us to have the sense of intimacy. He's given instances of that.
And the other favorite proof text that they use about seeing God, of course, is John 1:18, where it says that no man has seen God at any time, but that the only begotten God, who is in the bosom of the Father, is the one who has made him known or explained him. So we can't see God ultimately, even in the sense of understanding. We can't know God totally. And we can't see God literally because of the analogy is so strong. When you think of the sun, for instance, we can't even know the sun intimately. But what about the creator of the sun? So everything you say about God is a comparison or analogy. So we are told, though, that we can have intimacy with God. That's the important thing, right? That one day we will. All believers will have an intimacy with God, and he will walk among them, and they will be his people, literally.
That he would want intimacy with us is what we should be so grateful and honored by.
And that's what we're being offered. This is what was taken away from us by the organization that we were part of. And the link, we've got a link here to, let's see now. Jehovah appeared to Abraham. Well, it's Abraham, right? Because it's in chapter 18. No, this is chapter 12, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you've got the title, Jehovah appeared to Abraham. Huh? H-U-H? Question mark? Yeah. So what do you do with that passage in in Genesis 12, or the subsequent ones in 17 and 18, where it even says in the New World Translation, Jehovah appeared to Abram, and then to Abraham later. And we also want to attach the playlist, the Genesis playlist, the first 15 of which are about the shocks and the surprises that we got when we first read Genesis the year after we left the Watchtower.
Yeah.
See you soon.